you take this book that you like, and then you adapt it, and you didn't adapt it with anyone. This was just you. How's that process?
Well, it was really cracking it. You know, I had a few false starts, and I closed my eyes when I talk. I'm sorry. I had a few false starts, and once I figured out what to do with it and what changes needed to be made, I wrote it in about 6 weeks, and then I polished it over the next few months. And, but I love writing because it's in its most perfect form, and because it's in your head. Nothing's gone wrong. You've had exactly the cast you wanted. Nothing, you know, it's exactly as you imagined it. Although sometimes it's better in the end after other people come in and add layers to it that you maybe didn't see or didn't imagine or hadn't anticipated. But it's fun writing.
This is the fourth night of a screening series of movies that you picked, culminating with your film, and one of them, the movies that you picked, was Psycho. And Hitchcock famously, storyboarded every shot. It is said, I don't believe it to be true, but it's often said of Hitchcock.
It's been disproven now.
That the storyboarding idea? Well, yeah, then the dullest part of the process for Hitchcock was the actual shooting. That's the part I also never fully can imagine that. But how much of that do you do when you're writing? Are you visualizing as you construct?
When I'm writing, I'm visualizing really, and I write in a kind of shot-by-shot way. When I'm writing, I also do a lot of photo research before I start. I think of each character, what do they like, where do they live, what do they eat, what's their world like, who do they know, and then I just compile lots and lots and lots and lots of images. And you know, I'm looking at all these things while I'm writing to add that bit of texture that helps make things real. I don't remember what you asked. I went over it.
You answered it,
okay.
and you nailed it. Yeah. Well done, thanks. So let's talk a little bit briefly about, because the movies you picked for the screening series leading up to Nocturnal Animals are they're hilarious. Psycho, In Cold Blood, another romp, and A Clockwork Orange. Why those movies?
Well, before I came tonight, because we're kind of talking about film noir, and I thought, I wonder what exactly the definition of film noir is, and it's pessimism, fatalism, and menace. And I thought, well, actually, I'm pessimistic, fatalist. I'm so, film noir, I think, is
You're not
attractive.
You're not a menace.
No, I'm not a menace. However, there are menacing characters in my film, but I suppose I'm quite a fatalist, which one could call a pessimist. It depends. What did you ask? Sorry.
This is your opportunity to talk about Psycho.
Psycho.
Yeah.
Well, I'd actually love to just talk about all three of them and why I chose them, because Psycho I chose them because, I mean, it changed the way I think everyone thought about thrillers. But the other two are a little more literally related to this film, because they're really about domestic bliss, or they're moments of domestic bliss being absolutely interrupted and destroyed by a seemingly random gang of guys. I mean, Malcolm McDowell in Clockwork Orange. I remember seeing that when I was a kid. It was 1971. I was probably 10 years old. I don't know why I was seeing this, but I did. But it was so terrifying when they break into the house and they, torture that poor woman and break her husband's legs, and it was so random. And of course, In Cold Blood is really disturbing because it is, again, this idea of safety, of the family, of the home, and then all of a sudden this terrible thing reaches in and destroys that. We were talking backstage, and maybe, I don't know if this is the wrong moment to bring this up, but when you love film, and you're inspired by film, and you watch film, and you consume film, and then when you realize you want to be a director, and you start watching the shots and consuming the shots and thinking about all these things, certain things penetrate. And one thing in rewatching these films, because I knew I was coming here tonight to talk about them, I was watching In Cold Blood, and in the very last shot, when Robert Blake's character has been hung, you hear his heart beating, bum, 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 and it goes black. And the director, Richard Brooks, then copied himself in Cold Blood was 1967, when he did Looking for Mr. Goodbar in 1977. And we have three. Looking for Mr. Goodbar?
Isn't it? Am I wrong?
Somebody.
I really wanted you to get it wrong so I could correct you. And now I think you're right.
Anyway, he then copied himself. That's one of the most spectacular endings where she's murdered. There's a single light bulb over her head, and it starts to swing, and it's along her face is lightened and darkened and lightened and dark, and she gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, and then her heart stops. And while I didn't use it directly, it's an incredible, it's stuck with me. And I did it in this, although, of course, Jake and Amy's voices and cries are happening while that heartbeat takes over everything. I did it in a single man with a ticking clock as Colin dies, and to get back to the films we chose, and In Cold Blood.
So Richard Brooks in Cold Blood, a couple of things. Everybody knows that he used the real cluttered house and shot in the rooms where the kids had been. But he did a couple of other things that are, he got Nancy Clutter's horse and brought it back to use that horse. And he also hired the real executioner of those guys to hang Robert Blake as a director. What do you think does that lend any extra authenticity, or is that
I think it's just talking about it, it's disturbing, and of course when you're on set and you're filming and everyone knows this, I think it absolutely adds to that atmosphere, and of course then the audience knows about it, and it's written about it, and you watch it, and it adds that extra layer.
Where does that, I'm sure you've been asked this question so many times, I'm sorry to ask it again, but it's interesting to people, I'm certain. Where does that confidence come from, and when does it turn into somewhat of a burden, where people want to pigeonhole you as one thing and there's an unwillingness to accept you as something else?
I think people often want to pigeonhole you, but it's confidence and it isn't confidence. I guess I had wonderful parents. I still have wonderful parents, but they were so encouraging. And I think I developed a strong sense of imagination. And I really, believe that if you can imagine something, you can close your eyes, you can see it, you can make it happen. And it might terrify you, and it might thrive on that, I think. But you should do it. And yes, you can get pigeonholed until you're good at it, and then hopefully, then you're okay, you're safe.
You'd like to describe yourself? You're filmmaker. Is that your main job?
I would say I still have 2 jobs.
No, you have to pick one.
No, you don't.
Yeah, no, of course not.
Of course not. Yeah.
What took then, since it was a big deal to make a single man, and you were past the age when most people make their first film, why didn't you quickly move in to another movie? What took 7 years?
7 years, I don't know. I don't know where time goes. As I said, it took 2 years to get the rights to this book. A couple of years in order to adapt it, set it up, and get it on the screen. I opened 100 stores. I have a son who's now 4. Life just kind of took over. And also, I hadn't found the project that really spoke to me. I am so fortunate in life that I do have another career, which provides me with income. So film for me is something that is the most personal and the most artistic thing that I have in life. So it had to be really something that spoke to me.
You intertwine 2 stories here, the one fictional and the one real, at least inside the movie. I think very effective. Other movies, like I read some Tenth Woman, some that do it okay. You do it very effectively here. What's the aesthetic that you're going for as you make that decision of when to move back and forth? How much has been, we're too long on this, we need to move back?
It's really all one story. Because, of course, as Jake's character says, nobody really writes about anyone but themselves. So he's written this. She realizes that. She knows him. As she's reading, and the whole thing is in her head. So remember, we're reading a work of fiction, interpreted, cast, and directed by Amy. So, as it is all one thing. It starts to, these worlds start to fuel each other. For example, when he sees that she's had an abortion, we don't see any anger from him then, but then we immediately cut to the novel where he says, I should have stopped it, I should have stopped it, I should have stopped it. So the anger from real life has been pumped into the anger of the novel, which then, of course, floods back to Amy and makes her realize the pain that she caused, and the stories are really the same story. The Red Sofa, for example, That, again, let's remember she's an art dealer, so when you encounter this red sofa and these bodies, there is a certain art installation quality to them. They're in her head. But he's written this red sofa because in another scene we see, of course, she's lying on a red sofa saying, my mind's starting to wander when I read your work. So when he kills her avatar in inside story, puts her on that fucking red velvet sofa, and she was always, criticizing my work, and of course she knows this, and the stories start to spiral into really one story.
What does it say about us as an audience, that a story that we know not to be true, even in the rules set up by the movie, the Jake Gyllenhaal Texas story, that at least for me, and I'm sure for hundreds of people here, and people see the movie all over the country, that we are fully vested in the story that we know is not even really an accurate depiction of the story, it's what's in Amy's head, but we care.
We have to, because that's the only way that we as an audience can understand the pain that he went through and what he's trying to say to her, and that we can understand how this is registering, and that she understands, this is how he felt when she literally stole his family and his life, and that's what he's communicating to her. So we as an audience have to feel that it has to be very visceral and real. In her case, sometimes things are more visceral in your mind and more exaggerated than they sometimes are in life. So.
Are you at a point now where you would direct somebody else's script, or are you still committed to writing and directing?
Who knows if you find the right thing. I would probably change it. Only because, I think, the way I approach film is, I do have a very clear idea and a very clear thought and something to say, and it's a visual medium. So, I know, so I don't know. That's hard. I think I'll write the next one as well.
So you gave me such a lovely, authentic, genuine, famous person response to this. So when you find out today you get nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay for the critics, you did not say, oh yeah, it's no big deal. That felt really good, right?
It did feel really good. Are you kidding? When you do something that you love and you're proud of it and then someone notices it, I'm not one of those people who's going to say, oh, nominations and awards don't mean anything. They do, because you're trying to connect with people. That's the goal. And so when you realize, okay, I've connected, someone notices, it's great. And I'm really proud and happy about that.
I imagine you felt the sense that you're a fashion designer, an unbelievably successful one, representative of an entire new way of doing things, and then you go off to do this. Is there a part that you want to say, look at this, look, he told you. To who? And who gets that speech?
Well, the funny thing is people are so kind in this industry. On the surface, and in Los Angeles. And one of the nice perks about, and one of the things that's helped me enormously in this industry is that in the fashion industry, we dress everyone. So, my first movie, I've known Julianne Moore for a long time. I've made lots of things for her. I called her and said, would you read the script? And she said yes, and then she said, I'd love to do it. So we have this access to, or I had this access to people, which made it a lot easier for me. What was your question? What was your question? Yes, nice. So, no, I had no idea that anyone thought that people thought this was ridiculous when I said I was going to make my first film. Because everyone said, oh, that's such a great name. Oh, that's wonderful. It was after I made it, when I was doing interviews, and people would say, how did it feel that, everyone thought you were a complete fool? You wouldn't succeed at this. And I had no idea, because everyone was so accommodating, nice. Oh, it's going to be great. And then I heard, oh, yeah, we really thought you were a fool. So, of course, I had no idea.
Are you an actor's director? I read Colin McFirth said that you were an actor's director. Do you think you are?
I definitely think I am, because I think a director, actors are your safety net. You get great actors and you cast them well. They know themselves. They want to give you a great performance. They know themselves better than anyone. And so I think, they each have different process, and you work with them, you guide them, you're there to support them, but you also have to respect the process and respect that they know what they need to do because they want to perform. And let them do that. And so I think I'm good with actors.
You got 4 of the most significant roles and 4 terrific performances in this movie, and then Mike Shannon, who we all know is such a wonderful actor, he got nominated too. Does that Well, you had it with column 2, but there's got to be pride in that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But you know, that's Michael. He's an amazing actor, an incredible actor. So I'm not going to take credit for that. I'm just happy for him because he did such a terrific job.
Yeah, okay, but you can take a little. I mean, it's got. I'm not saying take credit because you wouldn't take credit, but there is some satisfaction. No,
Of course.
all right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
Wow, it's freaking hard. I know I'll keep going, but I know we have. You guys are going to want to ask Tom some questions.
As a filmmaker and fashion designer,
Yeah,
one of the things that are
filmmaker.
fundamental in terms of the aesthetics
And work ethics.
and work ethics. Well,
In both fields.
well, there's two different questions, but I'm happy to answer both of them. Aesthetics for me, you know, style should only serve the story. So aesthetics are only important as far as character development and the story are concerned. Work ethics, I mean, you don't stop. That's you just keep going. People who start to work with me, I always say, look, if you hit a wall, you go around the wall. If you can't go around the wall, you go under the wall. If you can't go under the wall, then you go over the wall. If you can't go over the wall, then you fucking try to knock the wall down. If you can't knock it down, then you can come to me and say, I tried to go here, I tried to go there, what do we do? But I don't want to hear about it. So work ethic is, you have to.
Is it more collaborative, the process in filmmaking than in fashion, and how do you adjust, or is it just an easy adjustment?
Well, that's a few questions. It is an easy adjustment for me because the process is surprisingly simple. Similar. You have to have a vision. You have to have something to say. As a fashion designer, to be successful, you have to have a vision. You know, you have to have, as I said, something to say. Your brand, what you're saying, has to be different than everyone else. It has to have a point of view. And as a director, you have to have the same thing. You have to have something to say. With both, you have to hire incredibly talented people to help you fulfill and realize your vision. And you have to inspire them, to lead them. You have to support them and guide them and help them give you their very best. And at the same time, steer the whole thing towards whatever your ultimate vision is. So the process is similar. There was another part of your question.
No, I mean, the adjustment to it, and they're both collaborative. It seems that
They are
filmmaking, it
collaborative.
seems like
Filmmaking is more collaborative.
More collaborative.
More collaborative, absolutely. And so, yeah, but that's where you also add, you know, that's where it takes on texture. I think we're really the only, if it were completely singular, it would be kind of flat and dull. The texture of all the different layers and all the different people contributing and all the different things that were in their minds when they were the screenplay or thought of it, it adds to the whole thing to help it feel real and alive.
you were an actor before being a fashion designer.
I did television commercials. I'm not so sure I would call it an actor. I went mostly to Studio 54 and then did some TV commercials. I dropped that as a role because I was working a lot as this boy next door.
In
Selling
commercials?
products and commercials.
There's a boy next door role in
Oh,
commercials?
yeah, no, when I was 19, I remember being so freaked out because my agent said, you got to start shaving your chest, you know, your beard is starting to show through, you're not looking like a teenager anymore, you need to put pancake on it, I was just getting weird, you know, my hair was starting, I was doing a shampoo commercial, the hairdresser said, you're going to lose your hair, I started getting, I hated being in front of the camera, hated it. So,
Where do we see these commercials?
you're not going to see it. You're going to ask this. There's another Tom Ford at SAG when I joined, so my name is different. You'll never find out. Not on YouTube. I'm not going to tell you which one's
I really want to make it my last mission.
I'll send them to you. I have one date I can send.
We got another question here. Speaking of your vision, how much pressure did you get from financiers and other financial backers to change or affect that vision?
I'm so lucky, and you know, I'll preface what I'm about to say by that, because otherwise I'll be like Susan and you'll say, I hate this woman, she does everything, fuck her. I'm really, really lucky. I don't have that pressure. I self-financed my first film. I started out to do the same with this, and I did end up still financing some on top of what Focus and Universal paid me for distribution rights. So I am independent, and I didn't have to answer to anyone except myself. And so I couldn't work that way. You know, I'm not saying it's not an egotistical thing. I'm 55 years old. I know what I need to give my best. I'm not good with voices in my head, and I just couldn't do it. It doesn't mean that I didn't, you know, screen the film for people whose opinions are respected throughout the whole process, which condition and take notes. But that just
Other directors, you speak for other directors?
yeah, actually yes, yeah. Friends in the industry, producers, directors, yeah, sure.
Is there a movie that you'd like to make that that self-financing would prevent? You know, is there a $50 million, I don't know how much money you have, but is there a movie you'd like to make that costs a lot of money?
No, it wouldn't be worth it to me. I'd rather make a very small movie and be able to say what I wanted to say, and if it was a failure, I would be my failure, and if it was a success, I would be, no, I wouldn't do it. It's not non-interesting.
The beginning of Nocturnal Animals and the seeing Amy Adams' home and later seeing her work, you know, if you were looking for a sign that it was the same director, you could see some of, to me, maybe I was reading between the lines too much, but some of the same aesthetic that we saw in Single Man. Then when we get into the Jake Gyllenhaal story, it is completely different, and we're out in the West Texas, we're in the middle of nowhere. Was that deliberate? Did that please you to break from that sort of format that you had before?
Yes, of course, and Amy's world is meant to be so, it's meant to be cold and synthetic and stylized point of suffocation, because that's the life she's living. Even that is exaggerated. Even those rooms are too austere for me to live in. I'm one of those people that does sort of live a little bit, everything's perfect and put away and clean and neat and organized. But, so that was part of the storytelling. The inner story has to be very gritty, visceral, but still, there's a certain beauty in that, I think, as well.
Do you have moments with your 4-year-old where you just can't bear the fact that those things are all over the place? Or is he like a little Tom Ford? Always putting his stuff away in its proper place?
He is a little bit, but I've given up.
When you were writing this, did you know you wanted Jake and Amy to play the roles?
Not at that time. And I realized after I finished writing that I'd written very hard roles to cast, because I did realize that I wanted the same actor and actress to be able to play 20s and 40s. That immediately narrows down the field. And then I also wanted Amy's character in particular to be sympathetic. It would be very easy to hate this woman. She has all these things. She did this terrible thing. She's miserable and sad. Who cares? And so I wanted her to be sympathetic. And Amy has a quality in her eyes that's so soulful. And I needed an actress who could telegraph, her thoughts and feelings. Because this woman's reading for, a large portion of the film. So once Amy was my first choice, once I really had to think, okay, who is right for this role, I sent it to her. The manager read it, she read it within 48 hours we met, and she took the part. So it was great.
You know so many people in this business. Did you know them?
Amy I didn't know. Jake I'd known for quite a long time, and I knew he was perfect for it because I knew him when he was a sort of 20-year-old ingenue, fresh, optimistic. And then, of course, like I think many of you, I was an incredible fan of Nightcrawler, and so I could see his tremendous range as an actor. And he's also then logistically fell into that age that he could be believable in his 20s and be believable in his early 40s. But I thought that he did a spectacular job. It goes from this idealistic person to someone who's had everything taken away from them. And he was the first actor that I sent that part to. And he said yes immediately right after Amy, and we had.
And I'm going to guess that happened with Julianne Moore and Helen Ford. What are you going to do the first time somebody says no to you?
Go to the next one on the list.
You'll be bad.
Convinced them. I'm very convinced.
Michael Shannon, did you know him?
I did not know Michael Shannon. I met with him in New York. We met for a couple of hours. I knew he was right, however, because I had watched the body of his work and have always been a fan. And but he really surprised me. On set, he did not break character. He was so scary. No one wanted to go near him. He smoked more cigarettes between takes than he smoked on camera. He was terrifying. I mean, he just put out a vibe. And but he gave such a brilliant performance, and he's a lovely human being when he's not in character.
Where did the wonderful and incredibly memorable outdoor toilet scene come from?
Well, when I was doing photo research, I typed in to Google or whatever my search engine is, white trash Texas Hicks. That's right. And page after page of images. I was busy pulling images into a file and photocopying them to go in my binder for this world I was creating in Texas. And all of a sudden I came across this image of a real life guy sitting on a toilet, on a phone, with his pants shoved down, and a beer. And I thought, this is genius. I have to use this. And in the book, we find Ray on a baseball field in a baseball jersey. Of course, Ray in the book is also much older and not as interesting as a character physically. I don't think as Aaron Taylor Johnson, who I think, by the way, gave an amazing performance. He's English, and I don't know if you know. I mean,
He's English?
He is English, and he is a spectacular actor. He's got 4 daughters. He is the opposite of that character. He would sit on set in between takes. I caught him reading World of Interiors. And he's a completely different guy. He's gave a spectacular performance.
That guy's English and has 4 daughters? I don't believe that. Everybody's English. Irritating. You live there. You're part of the problem. When you have a project, when you have a vision right from the start, do you stick to that vision, or I guess the idea is, do you deviate from that vision if deviation is called for?
I think the answer is both, because if your vision is to get around the wall, and you can't get, then you try to go around. It goes back to that. Yes, of course you have a vision when you start, but if you encounter a problem, clearly you have to try to find a way to get, to achieve your vision.
Is there a good example of either single man, but better would be for Nocturnal Animals, of a wall that you figured out how to go under or around?
Yeah, but it was really cracking the script. It's an internal monologue, and there were quite a few issues with it. I mean, in the book, there are very few scenes where we actually see Susan's life. She's not a dealer, she's a housewife. She does leave her writer husband for a young medical student who provides her with such a marginally higher level of living that you wouldn't have understood it on film. It would be sort of like, well, why did she do that? So, once I figured out how to exaggerate certain things and condense certain things and tighten certain things to drive home the point of the film, then that was an exciting moment, solution.
Do you feel any need to stick closer to source material? I bring it up only because it just occurs to me that
If the writer's living, I think you might have to.
but if the writer's gone, because Truman Capote, Richard Brooks wouldn't let Truman Capote see the script for In Cold Blood, and Truman Capote hated it.
I think they're 2 totally different mediums. I think a book is a book. It's something you read. She's the most beautiful woman in the world. Every one of you, all of us, we're going to have a different idea of who that is. You put it there, we all know that's who we're talking about. So they're totally different things. It doesn't mean that I don't respect writers. Of course I do. I had a hard time when I was adapting Christopher Isherwood's book, A Single Man, because it meant so much to me when I read it in my early 20s and throughout my life. When I acquired the rights from his partner, Don Bacardi, I was having dinner with Don, and I said, I'm having such a hard time. I was trying to adapt it literally. And he said, don't adapt it literally. Take what speaks to you and make it your own. That's what Chris felt. A book was a book, and a film was a film. And it liberated me. It released me in a way and helped me then turn that into the screenplay that became the film.
Can you tell us what the end of the movie means to you? Can you discuss that a little bit?
The point of his book is to say, as we know, as I've talked about, this is what you did to me. This is how it felt. And there are different reasons he said in this book. One, to say that. The other, to say, look, I finally did it after all these years. He says in the opening letter to her, which doesn't mean anything to you at the time, but when you see it the second time, it will. He says in the opening letter, in the end, you left me with what it takes to write from the heart. Meaning he took that pain, he channeled that pain, and it was finally the thing that helped him break through, because he stayed at it and finally wrote that novel that he always wanted to write. At the same time, it causes her to re-examine their relationship, and I've made you fall in love with me all over again. But guess what? We've made this day, and I'm not showing up because I'm over you, and fuck you. Now, thanks, but it's quite so hard and cold, because the other thing is transformation is painful. This character, she's also been given a gift, because she has been trapped in a world that has made her so unhappy. She's literally living in a concrete bunker behind a steel wall. She is dead inside. This has reawakened her. She has taken the rings off. She has wiped the lipstick off. She is not going back to that life. We don't know what's happening yet, but whatever it is, that's over, and she is transformed through this. How do we know she's not getting on a plane and going to Dallas and winning it back like Scarlett O'Hara would have? I don't know. But it's a transformative moment.
I can't stand her. She's so
That's
cute.
what he said to her. And does he say that out of love? Does he not show it? Or,
Let's talk a little bit about the beginning, because it relates to how trapped Amy Adams is. Maybe these people have forgotten, because they've been through hell in West Texas and being stood up at the end at the restaurant. But the movie opens with some dancers. Yeah.
the movie opens with women who have, and these women were incredible, by the way, who have let go of everything that our culture says they should be. And they are powerful, and they are joyous, and they are strong, and they are alive. And then we got to Amy Adams, who is trying so hard to be exactly what our culture says she should be. She's trying so hard what she feels she should be, what her mother felt she should be, what her insecurity is forcing her into, and she's dead inside. So it's a microcosm for one of the chief themes of the film. And then Amy's character, of course, as an art dealer, she's chosen this to be the piece in her gallery that she's showing. So has she done this subconsciously because she's excited by the freedom and the power that these women have? That's what that was about.
So in relation to tone and pacing, what was the rest of that?
In relation to tone and pacing, how much of that was achieved in pre-production and how much of that still remained the original vision in Final Cut? Correct? Yes. Okay. Well, I think you have to go into a film with a certain idea of what your tone and what you're trying to achieve. Pre-production, I don't know about, more really, I think, when you're shooting. But I was very aware that this could be tricky with these individual scenes and individual worlds, really three of them, the inner novel, the present world, and then the flashbacks. So each one of those scenes I constructed as a complete thing that I knew could be moved around if I wanted to reorder them or relink them in a different way. In the end, I literally came back to the way that I had written it. I also shot I always get screwed up on this word, the connective tissue of these.
I'm pretty sure that isn't a word.
It isn't a word, but I never can say it properly. So I was aware that it was a tricky thing, and that it might not work, and that I might need the freedom to slide things around in a different way. In the end, though, it did land almost in exactly the way I had written it.
I'll wrap this up with $250 million movie, Star Wars type movie. Star Wars movie, the next Star Wars movie, and you can design the Death Star and make it look incredibly cool inside. Really? It's there?
Unless I have complete control of it, total Final Cut, no.
I like the idea of a Tom Ford movie set in space, though.
Well, maybe we'll write that.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening.
Star Wars didn't cost that much. Remember the very first one? It's creative.
Yeah, we want that. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Ford.